This may or may not be the Christmas Day video. If it is, then happy Christmas, and why are you watching videos on Christmas Day? If it's not, this is about a technology trap. The reason it may not be the Christmas video is that the power supply unit on the computer gave out yesterday. Now, I managed to get it to work again, but I don't know if it's going to stay working. I have thought about various ways of continuing the daily YouTube video uploads, and to be honest, it's very difficult to know exactly how you're going to do that without a working computer. However, I am aware that you can email mobile videos to YouTube, and I may try that, or it may just be that the computer's fine. But clearly I have a problem because the computer is not necessarily currently in working order, and if that becomes a long-term problem, I'm going to have to go and buy a power supply. And this brings up the issue of self-sufficiency. We are unable to be self-sufficient in this society because of things like vendor lock-in. That is the tendency of people to sell you things that you are not allowed to repair and are in fact made unable to repair in various ways. And as society becomes more complex and the technology in it becomes more complicated, the situation arises that when you need to fix something that is broken, it's not actually possible to fix it. And in the long term, this may actually apply to everything in our infrastructure. We have either long glass fibres or long copper wires which are used to send information to and fro on our houses. We have GPS positioning systems on tractors that enable them to sow seeds in fields. We have a complicated structure of services which bring fossil fuels to us when we need to drive around and when we need to move goods and services around. All of this is a big liability, and I've just experienced this liability because whereas we still have an internet connection, we don't necessarily have a working computer. So how do we get around all of this? There are obviously some things that it's easy to get around, and one of those things would be to grow food in your back garden and so forth, or to forage, although if everyone did that, it wouldn't end in a sustainable system in this country. However, there is another aspect to all this which goes the other way, and this relates to education. Nowadays, many of the things that people used to learn in school can in fact be learnt on the internet. And in particular, this is true with YouTube, because you can have me sitting here talking at you, or standing here talking at you, and it can go in your ears and out through your mouth or whatever without actually passing through my mind or your mind, as a typical lecture is. And I can also do things like I can show you how to make soap, how to make soda bread, clever stuff with red cabbage water that shows you how acidic or alkaline things are, how to examine somebody for various illnesses and conditions and so forth. And you see it all on there. Now, my old channel was called Hands On Is Better, because hands on is better. Now, if we're in a situation where people are going to school and they're going to school to learn something, that school needs, nowadays, in a society where most people have broadband internet access to YouTube and access to various other sources of information via the internet, that kind of information shouldn't be in schools because people can just do that anyway. If you take that away, what is the advantage of a school and the school system? There can possibly be some advantages to it as far as learning is concerned, but those advantages would have to be dependent upon the ways in which school is distinctive, like for example large groups of people that represent a cross-section of society for statistical purposes and so forth, the existence of playing fields and things like that. To the extent that that kind of thing happens in schools, school can be a valuable, even educational resource. Otherwise, it does strike me that they seem to be a bit pointless, and I'm actually wondering why they still exist other than as a form of childcare. Merry Christmas.